So this is going to be the first time I'm going to be putting it together and actually using the mower and seeing how we get on. I've got two fully charged 2.5 amp hour batteries, and I'm going to see if I can get the garden done with those 2.5 hour batteries, which were the ones that came with it. So let's put it together. Okay, just trying to work out how tight to put it. So I don't want to over tighten it. Obviously don't want it too loose. Right, let's see how I get on with that. Remember to take out the mulching tool. Okay, now finally to install the batteries. As you will see, fully charged. Let's install the first one. And fully charged. As you can see, that there's a little button there to check the status of the batteries in there. If I press it, 2 green lights come on. Okay, let's get on with the lawn and mow it. Okay, so it's the first cut on height level 4. That seems to handle it quite well. I might actually move it down to 3 for the rest of this little section. Okay, so it seems to have handled it quite well, as normally I would have had my electric mower, which is a Bosch Rotac, probably on setting 4 if not 5 for this length of grass, as on a 3 or lower. You could definitely hear it struggle a little bit, but as you saw and as I felt, this didn't do too bad. It went through quite well. I've managed to do all this so far. And that little bit around the corner. And now the bag is fairly full, as I noticed probably from the last 4 or 5 small runs it wasn't picking up, it was dropping out a little bit. So, time to empty it. Although saying that, I could probably get away with compacting it down a little bit and do it a bit more. Right, let's see if I can pick up the rest of the bits that fell out. Okay, so my first impressions of the lawnmower are very good. I was very impressed with it actually. It was better than I was expecting. I've used petrol and electric mowers in the past and it was definitely on a par with it, which I was quite surprised, and I was expecting it to struggle. But I think, like I said earlier, in some of the areas of the grass where even my electric mower, you could hear it struggling, this didn't seem to struggle as much. So yes, I was quite impressed. I suppose the only immediate negatives I found of it is I think it's slightly heavier than my current Bosch Rotac, and as some people have stated in other reviews, when you have to hold down the on-off buttons, you do have to hold them fairly tight, as sometimes if you're not pulling them in enough they seem to deactivate, which is a little bit frustrating because you kind of holding it, you relax your grip slightly and the lawnmower goes off, then you've got to obviously reactivate it and start again. So you did find by the end of it I was gripping hard and my hands, wrists were tiring a little bit. Towards the end I didn't really experience any loss of power while I was mowing normally. Once I finished the first cut and decided to go down from the 4 to a 2, I did notice it didn't seem as loud, it seemed a bit less powerful. But I don't know if it's because it was on a lower setting and obviously cutting differently, but I got the impression it was a little bit less. Also, I think near the end of the battery life, that it could just be actually after it gets to below 40-50%, the power starts coming away a little bit, and it's probably more noticeable at that sort of level, because obviously it's battery power, so percentage of the battery is in relation to the voltage. As it drops, less power goes to it, so it makes sense that actually when it drops down to a certain level, it's going to reduce power a little bit. So that's obviously probably the main reason for it. Like I said, I was going to use the mulching function just to cut the grass down a bit lower, and I managed to do the long area, and I literally was on the final bit and then the mower did die and the batteries did go. So all in all, from what I had there, bearing in mind I did have a good 3 to 5 inches of grass, maybe a bit more. Well, actually, if I think I should have measured it really, but I'd say at least 5 inches of grass. It done fairly well, it handled it really well. So I think the positives from today and my first experience were it's obviously cordless, so I can pretty much go everywhere without having to worry about mowing over any cords. So I'm not worrying about mowing over them, I'm not worrying about pulling them along or moving them to the side. I guess it gave you a sense of freedom and not having to worry about it. It was manoeuvrable, even though I think it was heavier than the other mower. I think the reach was a little bit longer, so sometimes turning when I got to corners, and if I was in a corner, probably not as agile as my last lawnmower, but it was still easy to turn. I didn't have to worry about the leads or anything. It's easy to change height settings, although I've got the same kind of gear lever type setting to change the height levels. Actually on this it was much easier and much smoother. I only needed to empty the grass basket twice, which was really good, though on the first time it did almost seem full when actually there was a little bit more space in there, so I just tipped it up, compacted it down and was able to do a little bit more. But again, I was cutting longer grass a lot longer, so that probably didn't help. So I think, again, overall, very impressed with the lawnmower. It's easy to use. The 2 batteries that came with it lasted long enough for my garden, and actually I would imagine that I'm going to be able to cut the grass a lot quicker than I would previously, as I don't have to worry about pulling out all the leads. Whereas previously there was a setting up and desetting up time, while now it's a case of pulling it out, putting the batteries in, and off I go. And next time I won't be filming, so it's going to be a much quicker process, and I imagine I'm going to have to fully cut the grass across in a much shorter time, saving me a lot of time. Okay, so the negatives. I think, like I've said, there doesn't seem to be a lot at the moment, but I think it's slightly heavier than the other lawnmower. When the batteries do start going, there does appear to be a loss of power. So the positives are it is manoeuvrable, it is quieter than the last lawnmowers I've used, and probably most of them. It gives you more freedom and there's no cables to tie you back, so you don't have to worry about pulling them.